affordable by the PSAC.
If she's saying that that's not affordable, how the heck does she expect those workers to continue to live?
It's been a week since a third of the public service went on strike. How long will it take for the government and the Public Service Alliance of Canada to reach a deal? Treasury Board President Mona Fortier is insisting her government won't sign agreements the country can't afford or that will slow down the delivery of services to Canadians. At the same time, PSAC's national president is calling on the Prime Minister to personally intervene and give the Treasury Board a new mandate to increase wages. Let's bring in the front bench to talk about this. Carleen Verheyen was the Director of Communications to former Labour Minister Patty Hajdu. She's now an Associate Vice President with Summa Strategies. Gary Marr is the CEO of the Canada West Foundation. He's a former Alberta Cabinet Minister. Melanie Richer is former Communications Director to Jagmeet Singh and now works at Earnscliffe Strategies. And CTV National News' Ottawa Bureau Chief Joyce Napier rounds us out this evening. Hi, everybody. Here we go again, 1 week later. Carleen, I'll start with you. I interviewed both Chris Aylward and Minister Fortier off the top of the show. And I would say, and now I don't know how many interviews we've done over the past 8 days, 10 days, they are as dug in as ever on their sides. And in particular, it revolves around wages. Like, the government is not moving on this. And I don't think the President of the Union wants to go back to his members and say, okay, actually 9% is enough.
I think the longer that this goes on, Vassy, as well, you'll see that it will be harder and harder for either side to give in on their position. And that's why now that you get into a second week, it feels even more difficult to envision what a deal looks like than it maybe did after only a day of a strike. I think that the government, though, probably at this point in time is winning the sort of the PR war, the court of public opinion on this, in the sense of, they are not feeling a lot of pressure to go back to the table with a better deal. In the current environment, where you've got kind of an affordability crisis going on around the country, grocery prices are high, housing prices are high, it's pretty hard for the government to go out to regular Canadians across the country outside of the National Capital Region and say, I know you haven't gotten a 9% pay raise, but I've given it to these public servants who all, had the opportunity to stay employed during the pandemic, by the way, who have relatively stable and predictable jobs. I think that if we're going to see anything shift, public opinion is going to need to shift. That's what's going to motivate the government to go back to the table. And if that's going to happen, I think the striking workers and the union leadership is going to have to alter their message a little bit to make it resonate with the average person a bit more.
Is it the messages that need to change, or is there sort of a political flashpoint at which, Gary, the services being impacted are so great or so impactful on our lives that all of a sudden people are inconvenienced to a degree where they take a closer look at this and they decide to force some accountability, either at the government or at the union?
Well, I'd say this. Let me start with agreeing with a comment that Carleen made, that I don't think the public is particularly on side with PSAC right now. I think that for the reasons that she stated. I don't think that there is pressure on the government. It's notable that the President, Mr. Aylward, is saying, we're doing this not just for our members, but for all Canadian workers. And if we get this, then it'll benefit you as well. I don't think the public is really buying that argument. I think that, where public opinion is an interesting point. Obviously, both sides are seeking it, but neither side is negotiating with the public. Both the federal government and PSAC are negotiating with each other in an employer-employee relationship. I think that there may be a flashpoint at some point, but I think that that the timing is still better for the government. I think that, in my observation, there hasn't been a sufficient amount of inconvenience for Canadians yet for them to be calling for the government to change. I think Canadians recognize that, everybody has been dealing with the issue of inflation, and that it's notable that, there's been something like 80,000 new members of the federal civil service that have joined ranks since 2015, 2016, tens of thousands of more. And, people in the private sector saying, during COVID, I may have lost a job. I didn't see anybody losing a job with PSAC.
I think that's a fair point, Melanie, and I think there's some polling that shows that Canadians are pretty empathetic to the wage demands, in as well the work from home demands. But there is I host a radio show, and I was telling Joyce earlier, like, it's very hard to find people who are not like, what? 9% sounds amazing. And you have to think that is, I think Gary's right. There's a negotiation going on between the employer and the employee, but at the same time, a government makes decisions based on, reading the room, right? And if they're reading the room, it's hard to say at this juncture that the public is really mad at them.
Right, and on that 9% point, I think you mentioned this last week, had we only said yes to the 9% a few months ago, we probably wouldn't be here now. So for sure, folks who are hearing that, it's hard to relate to how you want more, but at the same time, I don't think regular folks know the kind of difference between real wages when it meets up with inflation, right? So the PSAC is really focused on doing that. I do think there is a mistake that the government can make by assuming that this is going to stay in their favor, because at the end of the day, the next election is not going to be on PSAC either showing up to work or striking, right? The next election is really going to be about the government's record, and I think we've seen before the strike that, there was problems in immigration, there was problems with passports, and the longer this kind of goes on, I think the more the government will be responsible for the lack of services that people are getting. So I wouldn't play too fast and loose with that and expect that public sentiment stay with me for too long.
Joyce, the only caveat I'd add to that is Stephen McNeil was on this program last week. He said, if I were the government, I'd actually have an election on this issue. I'd bring back to work, and I'd do an election. That's how much he thinks public sentiment is in their favor.
And I think he may be right. I mean, it's interesting because we're only in day 8. I know only, and so public sector workers are going to still get paid, because how you get paid twice a month, so they're still getting their checks. I want to wait and see when the checks stop coming and the only pay is that strike pay. That's the first thing that we should be watching. And then there will be other pressures on those people that are picketing that are, not that the pressures are not real now, but they'd be even more real. And also on the government, we are starting to see actually services not working. The immigration minister saying tens of thousands now of immigration requests. That's a big deal. We've got the wheat growers. Their stuff is stuck in ports. Wait a while, and you'll see how happy the public will be. So who wins the PR battle is anybody's guess. But the public sector union is also asking for a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, we're concentrating on only the increase they want in their wages. They want a lot of other stuff, right? They want more holidays. They want to be able to have not the 1 week, but 2 weeks off for taking care of loved ones. And I mean, nobody can fault you for wanting to take care of loved ones, but this is not something that everybody enjoys in the country. So there are privileges that they have already that a lot of Canadians in the private sector do not have. So I'm willing to bet that if this starts playing a little bit dirty, and this information starts seeping out to what else the union is demanding that other people are not getting in a time when, pocketbook issues are so hot. I don't know who's going to win the PR battle, but, my money is not on PSAC.
Speaking of